Most woodworkers think an expensive saw blade automatically means better cuts. But is that actually true? Or are we just paying extra for marketing? Today, I'm putting a cheap saw blade against a premium saw blade in a series of real woodworking tests. We're going to compare cut quality, speed, burn marks, tear out, and overall value. Because by the end of this video, one of these blades is going to completely change my opinion. And honestly, the results surprised me. So here's what we're working with. On one side, a budget saw blade. The kind many beginners buy because it's affordable and easy to find. On the other side, a premium blade that costs several times more. At first glance, they look similar. Both are sharp. Both are designed for woodworking. And both promise clean cuts. But the price difference is massive. So the first thing I wanted to know was simple. Can you actually see a difference in the cut? I grabbed identical boards. Same wood. Same dimensions. Same saw. The only thing changing was the blade. I started with the cheap blade. The cut looked decent. Honestly, if I wasn't paying attention, I probably wouldn't complain. The board cut cleanly. The saw moved through the wood without much effort. And for a moment, I started wondering if this entire test was going to be pointless. Then I installed the premium blade. Made the same cut. And immediately noticed something different. The cut felt smoother. The saw seemed to move through the wood with less resistance. And when I looked closely at the edge, the difference became obvious. The premium blade left a noticeably cleaner surface. Not a huge difference, but definitely enough to notice. Especially if you're building furniture. Because cleaner cuts mean less sanding later. And less sanding means less time wasted. At this point, the expensive blade had a small advantage. But then I moved to something every woodworker hates. Tear out. If you've ever worked with plywood or hardwood veneer, you know exactly how frustrating it is. A beautiful board can be ruined in seconds. So I set up another test. Same material. Same cut. Different blade. The cheap blade didn't do badly. But there was visible tear out along the edge. Nothing catastrophic. But enough that you'd probably want to clean it up before finishing. Then I switched to the premium blade. And this is where things got interesting. The tear out was significantly reduced. The edge looked cleaner. Sharper. More professional. And if you're building cabinets or furniture, that's a difference that actually matters. Now the expensive blade was starting to justify its price. But I still wasn't convinced. Because clean cuts are great. But durability matters too. A blade that cuts beautifully for 10 minutes isn't very useful. So I moved on to a longer test. Repeated cuts. Over and over. Through the same material. I wanted to see which blade held its edge longer. At first, both blades performed well. But as the number of cuts increased, the budget blade started showing signs of fatigue. Cuts became rougher. The saw required more effort. And the finish quality slowly started declining. The premium blade. Still performing. Still producing clean cuts. Still feeling sharp. And honestly, this was becoming a pattern. Every test so far showed an advantage for the expensive blade. But then I noticed something that made this comparison much more complicated. Because even though the premium blade was clearly better, the cheap blade wasn't terrible. Not even close. For many hobbyists, it was still producing perfectly acceptable results. And that raised a much bigger question. How much better does a blade need to be before it's worth spending several times more money? Because the next test completely changed how I looked at the value equation. And it revealed something most woodworkers never calculate when buying saw blades.